The pictures were like really scary. I mean, people had booked Airbnbs, and the people that actually lived in the town as well, their houses were flooded. The track with people walking around in wellies and still getting wet feet. It was
It'd be
nuts.
like Old Trafford. Perez, right? He's in a wonderful car.
Yeah.
Right, and he's still not really living up to what the car can produce. But I feel that George, he's outperforming Lewis Hamilton.
Hello and welcome to On Track GP right here on DR Sports. There was no race this weekend, but we are getting excited because next weekend we're in Europe.
Yes.
It is Imola. It's the one that we love, and we are back on regular scheduled timings for everyone in the UK.
That's the only reason she loves it.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't have to
She's
get
going to wake up at crazy hours.
2 p.m. afternoon race.
That's
Perfect.
beautiful. No early morning starts. Joining me today is Joe and Robbie. Lovely to see you. You've got your Ferrari.
We're going to Italy.
jacket on. We
I've
are.
got to wear it. Home race, one of two. And we're probably not going to win it, but we might get a podium.
You might get a podium. Do you know the actual full name of Imola?
Emilia Romagna.
No, it is the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari circuit, also known as Imola.
Oh, it was on the tip of
Tip
my
of your
tongue. It
tongue.
was that one.
This is one of 2 home races for Ferrari, as you did point out. It is named in honour of Scuderia Ferrari, founder Enzo Ferrari and his son Dino. It's one that we love, and it's one that kicks off the European calendar for us. Rob, this is a track that is so historic. It's a bit like Monaco for me. Like, it's one of my favourite ones that's historical. Are you looking forward to this race?
Yeah, looking forward to it. And what makes those races so good, and I was lucky enough to go to a race in Italy, is the fans. I was the one I went to was Monza. I didn't go to Imola, but I was blown away by the fans. It was like a football game. Like, the atmosphere was just incredible, So the history of that race, the way the fans get behind it, obviously it's all Ferrari, makes it fantastic. And like you said, it's nice to have it back in Europe. No disrespect to the others, there's been some great other races, by the way. But just to sort of see the European leg sort of starts off some nice run of races in Europe. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's like one of the home of racing.
It absolutely is. It has had many changes over the years to the corners, the layout as well. There has been some bad times at this track as well, hasn't there?
Well, last year, where we didn't go racing because the town flooded.
Oh,
it
was
wild.
was that race. Yeah,
this time,
that was mad. Yeah.
Crazy. And the pictures were like really scary. I mean, people had booked Airbnbs, and the people that actually lived in the town as well, their houses were flooded. The track with people walking around in wellies and still getting wet feet. It was
It'd be
nuts.
like Old Trafford.
Oh God! Straight in with it.
I had to drop that one in here because I was there yesterday.
Are you an Arsenal fan by any chance?
Kind of, yeah.
But yeah, it's a fantastic circuit. Very quick, very difficult. The Italians like speed, so both of those tracks are very, very fast. And like you said, Rob, the fans in Italy it's like a football match. They're so loud, they're so intense, and they're so Ferrari.
Yeah.
So bring it on, Forza Ferrari.
Super Forza Ferrari. So let's have a look kind of at the updates and the upgrades for Imola. Ferrari are, of course, upgrading for their first home race. They're going to bring upgrades to the SF24, which Fred Vasseur hopes will bring the team closer to Red Bull. Red Bull, they were also going to introduce some major updates after an aero update in Japan. Only Max Verstappen will receive that this weekend. No, not for Sergio Perez. What? You've got one dominant driver and one not so dominant driver.
You should do it the other way around, make it fair for everybody else. You know what I mean?
Well, let's talk about that, because last time out we did see a new race winner in Lando Norris.
Yes.
It was quite wild. We didn't expect to see maybe a 7-second gap between the McLaren and the Red Bull. Max did say there was a hole in the floor and various other factors, and the safety car helped. What's your feelings towards Ferrari this weekend? Do you think we can see another race winner?
We see it quite a lot with teams that they'll upgrade. Their upgrade will align with like an important race for them. So quite often Red Bull will bring a really good upgrade package to Austria, for example. And obviously Ferrari, being an Italian team, are going to bring an upgrade here. And you can imagine they're going to bring one at Monza as well. I mean, you can never write a Ferrari off on a home race. They always say, to be fair, drivers with their helmet, you can't actually hear the fans and that sort of thing. But the build up to it, and ultimately, this package should be good, and it will be really for this race. So I really do think we've got a strong chance. It will completely depend, realistically, on Max. But like you said, we saw a different race winner last time out in Lando Norris, and interestingly, again, Lando got the upgrades for the race and Piastri didn't, but Piastri will get the upgrades for this race. So it'll be interesting to see where they land against each other here.
As you just touched on Oscar Piastri there, Oscar was having a brilliant race, by the way, in Miami. And, you know, obviously he had a little clip of the wing and that kind of ruined the whole thing for him. And obviously the race was pretty much over. Yeah. So are you kind of looking as well from a McLaren standpoint, Rob, at how close Lando and Oscar might be?
Yeah, well, listen, their confidence is going to be high as well, both as drivers and in the team after winning that race. You know, I mean, I still can't believe it was Lando's first ever win.
I know, it's mad.
But, you know, confidence is going to be high. You know, I mean, you're back in Europe. So, but I also feel like what you're saying, that with Ferrari, your home race, the fans, because, like, yeah, you can't hear it, but you hear it all in the build-up. And plus, you're just like, even though they can't hear it when they're driving, they know what's going on. Yeah. They know how fever pitch it is. And maybe that gives them that extra edge to take bigger risks, to go harder on certain corners. And if they're getting if there's an upgrade as well, I mean, I fancy Ferrari could do something. I mean, you can never, obviously, Max is always the favourite, and is he a little bit?
No,
it's rattled. He's not too big a word.
He was indestructible last season.
A little bit of the invincibility's been taken away. I mean,
I think we're just basing this off of obviously what happened in Miami, and there was. I think we always say it's not Max. If a Red Bull isn't going to win the race, it's something with the car. So, and it is. It's something with the car. It's not on the driver.
Yeah,
but it's a little bit
because
of
that car
invincibility
is
starting to.
That car is so dominant.
The car's so dominant, but there's issues at the
there team. Are issues behind the scenes.
There's issues behind the scenes. They lost a couple of races now.
The cracks are starting to show.
Yeah, is it?
I don't think the cracks are as cracking as you think they are.
No, the car's still great. The driver's still the best driver on the track. Mm-hmm. If he turns up, if everything's, they probably will win. But there must be little doubts creeping in. Because it don't seem. I said it on the last show when I looked in that last race. And they're all sat up there, and you had Christian Horner next to him, where Adrian Newey should have been sat. It was just a blank. There was just a chair there with his name written on it. I was just like, something's a bit odd about Red Bull, and then they didn't win the race.
Christian Horner has shrugged off suggestions that any other key figures are going to follow Adrian Newey out the door. Zach Brown noted how he's seen a number of Red Bull CVs coming their way.
Anyone fancy stirring the pot, Zach Brown?
He's just stirring the pot a little bit. And look, the loss for Red Bull of Adrian Newey is going to be huge. It's a very seismic departure. And he himself has said he's very flattered by Lewis Hamilton, who's also bigging him up very much. He wants to have
Come to Ferrari, Adrian. Come
on. We said it in the previous show, innit? I would love to see him there.
Yeah.
I would love to see him there.
Because I think we would really see Ferrari be super dominant again. It's been such a long time since we were challenging for that.
I'll be honest with you, I'm starting to think, maybe it's misguided, but I'm starting to think there's a few cracks that could turn in. They're like, even Verstappen, is he going to even be there next year?
Well, it's always been regarding Helmut Marko, hasn't it? And Max has always said, as long as Helmut Marko is up, I will stay. But I guess, look, if we see another outgoing and it all comes back that it's Christian Horner that is the problem, then who's bigger, Christian Horner or Max Verstappen?
That is a massive question because Christian Horner got them to where they are, but Max Verstappen has taken them to the next level. So it's and Adrian Newey, not just Christian Horner, but it's the sort of driver versus car argument that we so often come back to, and they could end up losing them all. It could all just absolutely go tits up and they lose it all.
They're going to have their own engine thing.
Yeah. And the reg change in 26.
But Adrian Newey would have been a big part of that.
Current development
of this engine. So look, we're going to have to keep our eyes peeled on that. I want to just kind of talk about Ferrari in a little bit more depth because Charles Leclerc, he's also had some changes. He's announced that his race engineer from Imola onwards is going to change. It's going to be Brian Bozzi in place of Xavier Marcos. He's going to move to another department. Do you think that Charles Leclerc has been performing to the level you would have liked him to be at this season? Or obviously we've looked at Carlos
Short
Sainz.
answer, no.
Carlos Sainz has been the better driver out of the two, who's
I think
currently seatless for next year.
difficult to fight that. We always talk, and it's such a typical saying, but saying that Charles Leclerc's ceiling is higher, but I'm not actually even sure that's the case anymore.
I agree.
It's the consistent. I mean, it's the qualifying that Charles has is basically second to none. He's a very, very good one-lap driver, but you've got to race for sometimes 70 laps, and Carlos has been generally, I think, doing that. You know, the points are slightly swayed because Carlos obviously missed one of the races with his having the surgery and Ollie Behrman coming in, but I think. And the other interesting point you made there is that Carlos Sainz doesn't have a seat next year.
He
which
doesn't
is
have
wild.
a seat. But there is something that's quite interesting here, because Carlos Sainz Sr. has rejoined M Sport, which is Ford's manufacturing team for the World Rally Championship. And he's going to be doing the 2025 Dakar Rally. Carlos is obviously kind of being linked to Audi in F1. But because of this Ford partnership with Carlos Sainz Sr., Red Bull and Ford work together and are working together on the 2026 new power units. So is this a way, and it might be a rumour, that Carlos Sainz could be at Red Bull?
What, instead of Verstappen?
Who knows?
I think
as a second driver,
go.
that is a pretty decent lineup.
He has to end up in one of the two,
instead
either
of
Mercedes
Checo.
or Red Bull seats.
Well,
Instead of Checo.
yeah, I mean, Checo's out of contract,
Bye-bye.
isn't he,
Yeah.
anyway? Checo's out of
Bye-bye.
contract
It's
at
got
the end
a
of
big
this
following
season.
though over in Mexico.
I'm
Yeah.
convinced.
They
I've
wanna
said it.
let
I've said
that
it
go?
before. I'm convinced Checo will end up at Alpine. Convinced.
Wow.
They are going to. In my opinion, this is totally off topic, but in my opinion, Alpine obviously have got all these new sportsmen that are bought into it.
Yeah.
The driver partnership that they've got in Gasly and Ocon is absolutely not working.
Yeah.
They don't like each other, right?
Agree with that.
So at the minute, if you've invested all this money into it, you want to see this grow. They want to make it the Wrexham, right, of F1. So you need a big driver to come in there. Money and endorsement and stuff like that. Who better to have as your number one leading the new face of Alpine?
I
than
like
Checo
the
Perez?
concept of it.
I thought it could be Alonso, but obviously he's committed his future. So I'm seeing there's a big opening here for Checo, and the financial aspect that would bring for Alpine and a rebrand with all these new investment, unreal.
Interesting.
Just if I was working for Alpine, that's what I'd be doing.
That's free advice you've just given
Free
them there.
advice.
They're like that. That's a great idea. Abby
Can I
Summers will take
copyright
that. Thank you.
Can I copyright it?
No.
Can I? That's just my
You
thoughts
just
on
put it out there. They already know now.
That's just my 2 pence. But yeah, Carlos Sainz at Red Bull. Would you rather be Carlos Sainz in a second seat at Red Bull, or would you rather be Carlos Sainz as first driver at Mercedes?
This has got your name on it.
No, the first driver, because he's been driving so long as a second driver. It's time for him to break out on his own.
I think I agree. Even though it's a slightly worse car, and he's definitely better than George Russell.
Yes.
Like, he's definitely a better driver. I think George is controversially a bit overrated. I don't think he's.
Well, that is a question for you, Rob, because you are
I
a Mercedes
know.
fan,
I like
and,
George
until
Russell,
Lewis
man.
leaves next year, I assume. Are you
like
going to
George
be? Are you
Russell.
going to be a Ferrari fan?
I still like. No, I've always liked Ferrari as well, though. So, but I like George Russell, man. He's a good driver.
You don't think that George is?
I don't think he's special though. I think he's good, but he's not special.
Yeah, I agree with you. Is George enough to be a first-team driver at Mercedes?
Let's wait until he's got remember the car's been in problems over the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, that's
He's
true.
performed
So
better than Lewis.
remember, and he's outperforming Lewis Hamilton. So come on, I think we're being a bit unfair to him.
Let
Man.
us
Probably
know in the
are, but
comments.
So he's outperformed Lewis in literally every race this season, right? And last season as well.
But he is second driver at Mercedes, like he is, because
Yeah, but
of
you
how
don't
big
normally
Lewis is.
you don't normally outperform the main driver.
No,
do you?
but
And he
I
has
also
been.
think there's a bit of schools out for Lewis, and he's just waiting for what's happening next year.
Well,
He's-
not last season he won.
not last season, but he's been extremely critical of that car. And
Yeah, I think
wants
this
to get the
season I
better out
agree
of it
with
than
you.
the other.
I think he's I remember how he burst onto the scene. He was brilliant, and
At Williams.
I think he's just in a car at the moment that's underperforming. You haven't been able to see the best of him.
There's quite often the comparison between like Albon, Norris, and Russell.
Russell.
They sort of did the junior stuff together. And I definitely think George is the weakest of those three.
I agree.
I think.
I feel like we wouldn't have said that before. I think we would have put Albon there, but maybe I think the jump to go into that Red Bull was unfair on him.
Yeah, he got mugged. He got mugged off a bit.
But if you look at all their times at, Lando, I guess, at McLaren, but the other two at Williams, Albon is being pretty competitive in that car for the most part. Or how
particularly last year was,
particularly last year. He was really getting the most out of that, and from absolutely no help from Logan Sargent either in that second car. So I don't know.
Yeah, but it was a similar thing to like what George was doing when he was at Williams as well.
Yeah, but then I feel like he's now had the opportunity to kind of come and be dominant at Mercedes, and I think that they'll still be looking for a first team driver.
Well,
do you see what I mean?
I can't see him being like, if they want to go and win championships, your first driver has to be better than George Russell. Yeah. I think.
I agree.
No, you lot being a bit harsh, I feel.
Maybe. Let us know in the comments if you think we are being too harsh.
I mean, listen, I hear what you're saying, but he's not really had the chance yet because of the car. To really, you can't. With Perez, right? He's in a wonderful car.
Yeah.
Right, and he's still not really living up to what the car can produce. But I feel that George, he's outperforming Lewis Hamilton. And he was last season as well.
Lewis did finish above him though in the championship, didn't he? Yeah. I think Lewis finished third in the end.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Let's give him a chance, man. Give him a chance.
Give him a chance as a second seat.
Who's a better driver, him or Lando Norris?
Lando.
I think
Lando's just won
Lando.
Lando's just won his first race.
Lando's a more competitive driver across races for me. Just my
opinion.
You
do make a good point because
it
did take Lando Norris 110 races to win.
He won his first race.
That is quite a while.
I don't know, man. What I would argue is that one is in a McLaren, which is definitely now probably achieving a higher standard than we would have predicted. The other is in a Mercedes, and the car hasn't been delivering. Mercedes. An underperforming Mercedes.
Underperforming
Mercedes. So maybe you're right. Maybe we need to see both on a level playing field.
Get them both in the same car and see.
You can't always
be interested to see.
You can't always compare drivers.
Yeah, because of the car.
You can't always, but also you can't always say to it, "Oh, look at it when they were all coming through," because it's a bit like football, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
In the youth team, this one might have been brilliant, but he doesn't kick on when he comes onto the big scene.
So. Someone that is coming up and coming is Theo Pourchaire, Sauber junior driver for 2023, F2 champion. He's decided to race an IndyCar full time this season with Arrow McLaren in wake of the team dropping the injured David Malukas. Showed really good pace as well in the opening 2 rounds. Does this affect his chances as being a future F1 driver?
It's really interesting. I think it's actually a potential loss to the sport of F1. Theo Pourchaire is like a very highly rated young guy that people were expecting to have quite a big future in F1. But you see it, sometimes they'll disappear over to Indy and not come back because they can be competitive, very competitive there, rather than maybe sneaking in a seat in a Williams or a Haas or something, and then not being able to compete and finishing 15th, 16th, 17th, which ultimately is like, how can you prove your worth if you're finishing so low? Whereas they go over to Indy, they're on the podium week in, week out. Well, actually, the quality of life's quite nice over there as well. I might just stay there.
Well, this is also the problem, isn't it, with F1? Because obviously it's such a I don't know what the word is, but it's such a tight sport in the sense that obviously you've got these teams. There's 20 seats, right? And it's not like you have a real age limit. You can be racing. Look at Alonso. You can be racing into your 40s if you want. So it's not like it's football where you've got a kind of 10 to 15 year thing and then you move out. This can go on for quite a long time with racing. So it does mean that maybe a lot of these drivers that are really good in F2 champions, things like that, who need a seat, someone like Theo or Ollie Behrman, they don't get given the opportunity to do that. So then you don't ever get to really see their potential because they go into other sports.
Got to come with my idea. I said last week, my sprint idea.
Oh yeah, you wanted the sprint. You wanted the relay.
That way you can have more drivers involved.
He wanted the relay. But it'll be interesting. We definitely need to keep an eye on Theo Pourchaire because he's highly tipped to be a great driver. Want to just move on to Haas quickly, and an ex-Haas principal in Günther Steiner. News came out this morning that Haas are actually opening legal proceedings against him over alleged trademark breaches in Surviving to Drive autobiography.
What?
Yeah, it's claimed that Haas said Steiner and his publisher 10 Speed Press used images in the book that contravene trademark rules. The news comes a week after it was announced that Steiner was taking his former team to court over missing funds that he believed he is owed from his time at the team.
Tit for tat.
What? Has that just come out?
That's just come out today.
Oh my God.
It's all heating up.
Well, big old drama between the two of them.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like quite like a... When he left the team at the
It was
beginning of the
quite
season, it was very sort of like calm, and he still appeared at Autosport in Birmingham, and we went, and he was very happy to talk about it, and it all seemed relaxed. But now they're both taking each other to court,
Yeah,
which is
it's
mad.
just getting petty here.
Wow.
It's just getting petty.
Tit for
money-
tat, like
it's
you
what
said.
money- it's what
Yeah,
money
well,
does,
exactly.
isn't it?
There you
Someone
go.
call up Mazepin. Someone
Yeah.
get Mazepin involved.
Mazza
We need
spin
some
it in the
money.
wall, yeah.
And Kevin Magnussen. So there's been some what's the word? Criticism, I guess, over the way
Yeah.
that Kevin Magnussen is driven and Hulkenberg and just the Haas's in general this year. The antics have been branded over the limit by Sky F1's Karun Chandok after his attempts to pick up penalties and block other drivers to protect Nico Hulkenberg in Jeddah and last week in Miami too. There's been quite a few penalties he's received, especially over the Miami Grand Prix weekend. He's now only 2 penalty points away from a race ban. Obviously, every point counts when you're in the bottom half of the grid. Do you think that this defending, we'll call it defending because that's what it is, protecting of Hulkenberg just so we can try and get one of the cars in the points, is this wrong?
I mean, so he really fought dogfight with Lewis Hamilton, right? And that's where he received one of his penalties. And afterwards, I was expecting Lewis to be like, I can't believe this, like, it's disgraceful. But Lewis came out and was sort of like, fair play, like, he's doing what he can. He was very, very civil about it. And so ultimately, it's wrong because it's against the rules and he's getting penalised for it. But if you're a low quality team and doing something like that is going to snag you an extra point, potentially tens of millions come the end of the season, if I'm the team principal, I'm going behind closed doors, keep doing
Absolutely,
it, mate.
because one race ban, we all know that out of the two of K-Mag and the Hulk, like Nico is the better driver out of the two.
I think so.
This is no different, just in footballing terms, of having a team that's just been promoted, come up, go to a big team and just sit there, low block it and put everyone behind the ball and get a point.
Yeah, and that's why at least they're working as a team. There's a lot of other teams don't do that.
That's
You know what I
such a
mean?
good point,
The two drivers are just at each other's throats, but they're working as a team. And no, I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. And we want to see racing, don't we? So you want to get past him, you got
And every point counts. When you're looking at the bottom of that grid, when you've got the stakes and the V-carb and the Williams and the all the other crap that's down there, then that's what you have to do to make sure.
Don't diss Williams like
that.
It was more the stake. It was more the stake and the V-carb because I can't get over the fact that it's literally called the V-carb.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely not Williams. We love Williams, but it's I feel like you've got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I'm with it. I'm with you. Can't disagree.
And
with
also the other crap, Alpine.
Yeah, God, what is
The
going
other
on
one.
there?
Pierre Gasly, the driver, has revealed a special helmet actually at something nice. He is going to run an iconic yellow, blue and green striped design of Ayrton Senna to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the 3-time champion's passing. He ran this design at Imola on the return to the circuit in 2020. What's your kind of thoughts on that and the Senna situation this weekend?
Yeah, lovely. I think there'll be a lot of sort of memorial things, people paying their respects and that sort of things. He's an absolute legend of the sport, icon, absolutely. And so I think we'll see quite a few sort of things like that. I imagine there'll be a whole tribute at some point over the weekend to him as well, because it was an awful incident. So yeah, I think it'll be really nice to see drivers and teams paying their respects in that way. So that's lovely to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It was also Roland Ratzenberger as well as Ayrton Senna, who sadly passed at the 94 San Marino Grand Prix. So lots of memorials this weekend to come. Guys, we're back in Europe. I'm excited about it. I feel like you two are as well.
I think we've got a triple header.
We have
3.
We have
Imola, Monaco, and then famously not in Europe, but Canada. So
famously not in Europe.
Yeah, that Canadian European state.
Canadian European. It's part of the Commonwealth. What I would say, just finally on Danny Ricciardo, because we've spoken about this for weeks and weeks, that we thought he wouldn't make it past Miami. It seems he has made it past Miami.
I'm not leaving.
Yeah, it was that sprint result at Miami that could well have saved his bacon.
Do we think that's what it is? Is it just one more?
It's stuck him right. It's put him in. And where did he finish in the end? 4th or something, I think, in the sprint. So 4 points, like, it was great. Like, or maybe even 5. I can't do the maths.
Do you think they just wait till summer break now?
I don't think they get rid of him. I think if he can kick on a little bit here, he's got the experience. He knows, the next 3 tracks he'll have driven so many times over his years. If he
One
can
of the biggest names in the sport.
pick up a couple of points, it'd be great.
I think the problem is that there is such a gulf at the minute between him and Yuki. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't look good when you're supposed to be the name in the team and you're getting beaten by the younger one. But Yuki's not a junior in the slightest anymore.
Yuki's a great driver, but I think that people thought that there would be a more, I don't know, competitive edge between the two of them. It'll be closer than it was.
Maybe that will happen. Maybe. I hope it happens.
What is your prediction for this weekend, Rob? Who's your top 3?
Ooh, well, Max, number 1. I think the 2 Ferraris. Hold on, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm going to put the 2 Ferraris in there.
2 Ferraris.
Leclerc, then Sainz first.
Okay.
I think we'll get pole with Leclerc.
Yeah.
I think we'll go Leclerc, but he won't win it. So Leclerc to start on pole and not win in classic Leclerc fashion. But I do think exactly the same as you. Max, Leclerc, and then Carlos to round off the podium positions.
I am going to match, but slightly different order. I'm going to go Max, Carlos, Charles.
Interesting.
Let us know what you guys think. Put your predictions in the comments. Also, please make sure you do like and subscribe right here on DR Sports and join us every week for On Track GP. And of course, next week we'll be rounding up whatever happens at Imola. So thank you very much, Joe. Thank you, Rob. And we will see you again next week.